bronze sculpture. And then for the real exciting part, we're going to have a little unveiling of our 1/4 life-size model of the project. So me and my husband, Pat, are both veterans. And Nick Lagueros is a veteran of sculpture. He's been doing this for about 50 years, making public art and bronze sculptures for many public or private clients, as well as public governments and schools and all kinds of different organizations. Now, Pat and I joined his team about 6 years ago, just before the pandemic. And so we've been making sculpture as a team for about the last 6 years. So Nick is going to walk through some of these previous sculptures that we've done. So over to you, Nick.
Here comes the song and dance. No, I'm pleased to be here tonight, and thank you for taking a look at this stuff. This is Goldie Gopher, one of the two big school pieces I've done for the University of Minnesota system. He's just over 7 feet tall, and I believe that block of granite weighs about 7,000 pounds. I also did the Glamorous Days of Air Travel. This was to celebrate the Northwest Airlines, which became part of Delta, and the shows of family boarding a jet back in the early days of the 60s, when it was actually, remember when it was glamorous to fly. You actually got dressed up and served real food on plates, all kinds of cool things back then. We don't have that anymore, do we? Sid Hartman, who actually got moved a little bit further towards Target Field after because they remodeled the Target Center. Sid Hartman obviously is now gone, but at the time he was, I think, 91 when we did this piece. Quite a character. Here's a project that ended up in Palm Springs, family that I've done work for here in the Twin Cities, and they had this lovely little place out in the desert, and the two little kids are running out of the desert and jumping into the swimming pool. The Eagles Nest bench is down in Mapleton, Minnesota. They had built a pre-K through 12 school, and their mascot was the Eagles. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to create an Eagles Nest so that your first day of school, your child would be allowed to sit in the nest. And of course, when you graduated from high school, you left the nest. Artemis was, this was a private commission for a wealthy individual's backyard, and that's her little Bichon Frise dog that's curious about the roses in the hand of Artemis. And here's Champ, and we put Linda in this picture for scale. But Champ's a pretty good sized bulldog, and he will scare small children. So to make a piece like that, we typically start with a model, and that's what you'll see tonight as well. The model is really important. I think it provides everybody an understanding of what's to come. And this is usually done out of clay, and in this case, oil-based clay. And you'll see there are actually some differences between the model and the actual finished project, because things change over time. For instance, you notice he's now wearing pants in this clay, and he has UMD written across his chest. So there were some ideas that came along during the process. And I always tell my clients, this is a process that goes on long enough, and we're always willing and able to institute change. If we see something that would make the piece better, we will do it. We want this to be the best possible product. The armature that we build to begin is usually out of rebar, and then that gets covered with clay, and we model that out to the full form. Once the clay is approved, and that's the next big step, is once you get to see the piece, the committee will come and visit the studio and approve the clay. Then we go on to the process of casting the piece in bronze. And it starts with plaster molds over the clays. That these are done in sections, and they come apart. And into those mold sections, we pour wax. And we go through what is called the lost wax casting process. So the sculpture then becomes a flammable material that we encase in a fireproof material, and we bake the wax out. That's the lost wax part. And we melt bronze and pour it into that empty space. So that requires a network of arteries and veins, a way for the bronze to go in and where to come out. And the mixture that is fireproof is actually plaster, crushed fire brick, and silica flour. So it's a very different kind of mold that we bake the wax out of. Oh, and we get this actually flowing into the mold. You look inside there, you can see we have chicken wire on the inside, and the molds end up looking more like cylinders. And that gets baked at 1200 degrees for 24 hours. Just like my chocolate chip cookies. Bronze pour, we melt bronze at a temperature of 1975 degrees. And the molds are taken out of the kiln and packed in sand in our sand pit. And then the bronze flows in. That's all for safety. We don't want the bronze to flow out, break open a mold and flow over the floor. We just use sledgehammers then to break open the investment molds. And I usually tell people that the casting, and you're certainly all welcome to come down and watch the bronze pours. There'll be many for a project of this size, and we'll try to let the public know about those opportunities, because you don't always get to go and visit a bronze pour. It's kind of fun. We'll even let you swing a sledgehammer if you're good to us. I usually tell people that the casting is the halfway moment in the process. There's a great deal of finishing work that goes on. The bronze has to be wire brushed, acid bathed, imperfections ground, any holes filled. And then the assembly process, you can see it's done in many sections, and then ground down so that the seams don't show. The patina work is done using chemicals, and that creates a permanent oxidized surface color. And then I cover that with a clear coat of lacquer, a UV resistant lacquer. And that acts as a sacrificial barrier in case somebody comes up with spray paint. We can just use a chemical to take off the spray paint and then just re-lacquer. So it saves a lot of maintenance issues. Oh, here we go. Grind away at that bronze. And spray that lacquer. Keep forgetting there's movies here. This is such high technology for me. You can see the pins underneath the feet. Those stainless steel pins then are the connector between the sculpture and the concrete underneath it. And those pins all have to be, we have to drill holes, corresponding holes for those pins. And then we usually anchor that with anchor cement or epoxy, depending on the location. So you got to pack it up, crane it, and set it down. That's pretty close to what will happen here as well. I anticipate, I mean, this project was probably 1,800 pounds. I think this bronze will probably end up around 2,500 pounds. So it's a good size project. And now let's move on to the design itself. Try not to knock it over.
Right.
Mhm.
I might cry.
Hmm.
So this is a 1/4 life size, and I'll spin it around so everybody will get a good view. 1/4 life size model. So the finished product will be about 7 feet tall. This will be about 6 feet here, and then this dimension will be 5 feet. It looks a little bit different than the version that you may be more familiar with. You know, the version that is on the pamphlet and the version that is on the you can't hear me.
Yeah, better be.
Yeah, if it looks a little different than the version you may have seen either in the video, the promotional video, or on the pamphlets. The biggest thing we did was we've got a full life-size eagle instead of the small eagles that were kind of coming out of either end of the bracket, the middle bracket. We've got these life-size eagles and a lot of dramatic movement. The wings are pressing against to hold up these collapsing walls. That's an important part of the narrative. The other big thing is we put the male soldier in combat gear. So he is kind of saluting the flagpole, reporting in for his military deployment. And then we've got the female soldier kind of in one of these like welcome home scenarios. So she's just coming back from her deployment and you can see she's being reunited with her daughter. So I think we've got a really beautiful narrative that is going to touch a lot of veterans' hearts. The shape that the eagle is perched on mirrors the shape of the service sentinels that will be arrayed around the memorial. So we're tying in other elements of the overall site into the central sculpture. So if you've got any questions, we are here so you can fire away.
Any questions?
All right.
Very nicely
Thank you
done.
so much.
Yeah, it's great. Mhm.
Back to-
Yeah, thank you
you.
for
Thank you.
coming to this evening. Kyle. Get a picture?
Absolutely.
I see you.
Where do you want to move
Oh,
back?
All right, so then we have,
Ron Miller would like to say a couple words too before we get to the whole agreement thing.
sure, yeah, absolutely. Welcome, Ron.
Yes, we were really excited about doing that and getting the little bit of, tweaking here and tweaking there, and they are just great artists and great to work with. Linda, she grew up not too far from here, within a few miles of here. Related to Paul Peranto, actually. But anyway, so yes, it was great. It is great working with them. But I want to mention that we appreciate our partnership with the city and the associated opportunities that we've had for this. And there's little bumps, and there's not all the bumps are all flat yet, whatever. And Dave is working on that, and Kyle's working on that, and we're working on it. We understand the investments involved and the outcomes that we've seen to date. And we're proud of our efforts to bring this memorial to life. And we'll continue to support the effort through completion and beyond. I think most of you know I'm the American Legion chaplain. I've got a meeting that starts at 6:30 there, but I'm going to go there. And one of the things I'm going to pitch is we've already, on the Legion side and the VFW side, they have, given good amounts of money for the project, and we're going to ask some more for the. I'm going to ask for another 10,000 for the Legion, and ask that at the VFW also. But anyway, it has been great and working well. Mark, did I forget anything? Yes. Yes. Okay, very good.
Thanks, Ron.
Yep, so tonight, before you use that agreement with that, the group to build that sculpture in the city, it's just a agreement that we pay them every so often on milestones they hit, and then final completion dates, on sculpture, yeah.
And I forgot to say my name, Ron Miller, Forest Lake American Legion Post Chaplain, and I'm the chairman of the committee. One thing that is going to happen soon, because as we're putting things together out there, the pavers that we've sold for many years now, ever since 2009, actually, the price is going to be going up because we used to get them with the engraving already in it. Well, the way everything's set up there is there's going to be blank pavers in the spaces of the ones that are not sold yet. So like, say for instance, half of it or 2/3 of it or whatever. Right now, we've got 403 pavers that have been purchased and we've got those in hand. For instance, I've got mine in the back there, the 8" by 16" is the large one on the table there, and then the 4" by 8" is the small one. I'm gonna leave those with Kyle, so at the city here, you have something that's people can look at, and maybe during the day, it could be out on the bench or there's an opening there. Or maybe not. Kyle's gonna make sure that it doesn't get left somewhere so that somebody can use that small one as a rock or something bad. But anyway, yes, we'll leave those there, and so we're gonna have to go somewhere around $100 additional on the pavers because it costs so much more to engrave them where in place. And it's not as neat either in the sense that, you do it in a factory, it's not gonna rain on it, it's not gonna wind on it and whatever. So the paver price is gonna go up sometime soon. So anybody that's home and looking at this and whatever, if you wanna get a paver, the small ones are $150 at this point, and the large ones are $300. And you come to the city hall to fill out a little form and put a little draft of what you want the paver's name and whatever on it. But don't worry, that is just a draft, because what happens then twice a year, I receive all of those orders, blanks from Kyle and from the city here. And I call up the individual and say, okay, tell me about your veteran that you want to honor. I mean, what are they deceased? Are they alive? Where they've been and whatever. And we finalize that. And that's what's going to be engraved. And once it's engraved, it's in stone. Yes. So anyway, that's the process. And I hope that anybody that's on the fence wants to get it, they do it soon. So because we're going to do is this Memorial Day, we're going to have an opening. It won't be the grand opening, but it'll be a soft opening because all of those pavers that will be in place. And we'll have a great little Memorial Day service and then add on some more later on. Now, anything else? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Council, any questions on the agreement? Yeah, Ron, or the agreement in front of us?
Any questions, easy, hard ones, whatever. Comments?
I don't,
Questions here.
nothing here
Thank
for,
you.
yeah,
Okay,
thanks, Ron.
great, thank you very much. I'll get on to my other meeting. But Mark's here, he can answer all those questions.
Anyway,
Yes, those, Mike, you can.
Sure.
You can look at that one, those two later. The top line is typically, person's rank, military rank and their name on the top line. The second line is typically, whether they're in the Army, Navy, or whatever the service that they're in. And then, what they did, or they, whatever it was. And then the bottom line is typically the date and then maybe the place. So did they go to Germany? Did they go to Iraq? Did they go to, whatever, or is Korean War or wherever? And it doesn't matter whether the person is way back when World War I, or whether it's somebody who's in place right now working, whichever. So all veterans, and it doesn't have to be someone who lives here. It's somebody somebody that lives in Forest Lake area wants to honor that person. So, like, say you have a cousin or an aunt or an uncle or whatever, they never lived in Forest Lake, fine, you can honor them with a paver here in Forest Lake.
Just with respect to the meeting, we gotta wrap it up and go to the motion.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the proposed Veterans Memorial Sculpture Agreement.
I'll second.
All right, we have motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great. Thanks, everyone. Right, the next item, final PUD plat, Forest Lake North Garage Condos and Abbey.
Thank you, Mayor Roberts, members of the council. Tonight, included in your packet is a memo that notes Austin Hallberg, representing Hallberg Marine, has submitted an application for a final plat and PUD for the Forest Road North Garage condos plat. Included in your packet, though, is not information about the plat for a couple of reasons. Tonight, we've scheduled a public hearing for the consideration of that PUD plat. But we do have some items that we're continuing to work through with the developer. We weren't prepared yet for your consideration of the plat. And so a couple things tonight. The biggest request is we're going to ask you to table that public hearing till February 23rd. We're not going to open the hearing, not going to take any comments. It would just be a single motion that is included in your packet. I can find that page number in a moment. The other thing, too, as we've just been working through some final negotiations with the development, is I wanted to just verify a few policy-related items with the council. So a lot of the items are what's really been the sticking point for this development has been the improvement and upgrade of Forest Road North. As many of you know, it's an underdeveloped road. It's not been built to city road standards. It's a gravel road with double chip seal on it. When the development to the north came in, they agreed to pay for their fair share of that road at the time that the city is going to do it in a deferred fee payment system. So when Forest Lake Garage condos had come in, we said we could probably work something out there. So as a reminder, the development would be required to put in the road. And in this circumstance, staff had said, we don't necessarily think that's the best idea to have this one chunk of improved roadway in the middle. We asked them if they would pay for that road improvement now, but they had said we'd prefer not to because they know we're not doing that road right now. And so they would also like to have an agreement very similar to the property owner to the north. There's a little bit of nuance when we're entering into what I would call deferred development fee agreements, in that if we're entering into one agreement with one property owner, it's a fairly simple transaction. We're going to assess that on the tax rolls later on down the road, and we'll just get our payments back over time. This is a little nuanced because we are looking at a property that is going to further subdivide into condos, which later on is going to have 150-ish, give or take, different property owners. And we're just setting ourselves up for a little bit more, what I would say, contention later on down the road if we ended up deferring those and assessing those fees later. Earlier today, we did talk with the developer that we think that we have found some resolution and we can enter into a deferred development fee agreement. But I still wanted to just at least pose the questions to the council that I included in the staff memo of whether or not the council wants to continue to maintain that we'd like that road upgraded as part of this development, whether or not you'd want to waive those development requirements. In other words, do you want them to upgrade the road either by building for it, paying for it, or agreeing to pay later? And if you are favorable to waiving that, having a conversation about assessments. So I think the first question included in your staff report was the question of whether or not we want to require the improvement of Forest Road North at this time or waive those requirements. I will note the developer hasn't asked for this, but as of last week before this memo had come out, we were kind of a little bit at an impasse, and I wanted to at least see if I was following the right policy line of this council, not there was any sort of other development incentives you wanted to help provide. That makes sense?
Yeah. All right, council, let's walk this one through and see if there's any thoughts or any direction we want.
I mean, I don't think we want to waive the requirement to upgrade the road. I mean, we'd want to at least have the similar agreement that we have with the business to the north, right? Versus just saying we don't need to upgrade it. Is that, and that's your first question?
That's my first question. Do you want to waive that requirement?
No.
No.
Perfect. So then I guess the only other question is if there is no other question. If you don't want to waive that requirement, then we need to kind of work through the finalization of a development fee deferral agreement. I see Amanda shaking her head in that, yes, we think we can get there. The only other question though that I would have is, we don't normally use assessments that later down the road, and whether or not you'd want to look into that policy. As of right now, I don't believe we would need to, though. I think the developer is favorable to a pre-development agreement that would bind the property and all future owners. So we're with the hope we can get something back before you on February 23rd.
Quick clarifying question. So I read through the packet, I had the sense that part of the impasse was around the potential of having to spend money as a city on dealing with 150 future condo owners, correct? So
That
is
is
the
correct.
work that you guys are doing kind of getting us over that hump of not having to deal with 150 potential? owners?
It will necessitate those, what I would say, added administrative and legal costs later down the road. Every time the site comes back to put a new condo plat on the property, we will need to do a reassessment. We've talked through with the developers on the fact that they can help provide us with all the documentation that we would need, but we administratively would still need to verify that information, work with finance, work with legal to verify it's all legal before then sending it over to the county. So later down the road, there might be some more staff time that gets a little more nuanced, but it wouldn't be us having to work with 150 property owners later down the road.
Just curious, what do we think the timeframe is to upgrade this road? I mean, is the utilities there to support 150 condos that are all going to be using, sewer services and such?
Great question. So as part of the development, the developer is going to be extending water line and sewer services to the properties. The road is the only thing that wouldn't be proposed to be upgraded at this time. We have, as a staff, talked about seeing about the potential inclusion of the road project in the discussions for 2027 budget and the 10-year capital plan.
Those sewer lines don't run under the road.
Sewer line will run and be a direct connect to the Met Council line
Under the road.
under the road. The water line will run parallel with the road. The
So
sewer,
I guess I'm confused too. Does a sewer line need to be upgraded to accommodate 150 condo owners?
No, they do not. They're connecting directly into the Met Council line.
they will run perpendicular from, there'll be think of the Met Council line as the main, they'll be stubbing right into that main, into their site. So then the only thing that I would need would be a motion to table the Forest Road North Garage PUD and plat public hearing till February 23rd. It's as easy as someone saying so moved.
So can I just ask one question?
Sorry, I don't mean to rush things.
Not good enough that easy.
Yeah. So we will be paying though our portion in front of what would be the airport property,
If-
correct?
If the project is included in a future budget cycle or the 10-year plan, we would have to absorb those costs in front of the airport.
I just want for clarity for the public that, we're not expecting the developer to do anything more or less than what we're willing to do as well. So just so people are clear on that. Did you have something? Okay.
I was just gonna so move
Okay.
I should repeat it.
Abby's motion.
The motion to approve, motion to table the Forest Road North Garage Condo PUD and plat public hearing to February 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, guys. All right, we have the next item here, airport items on, Mark is going to lead us through a couple of these.
Yeah, so I think up number one on our list here is the lot lease rates. So as you may know, there's a number of different leases on hangars at the airport. There's at least 3 different versions of it, of a long round lease there. So we sort of have to go to the common denominator of each of those. And one of the lease drafts or one of the lease languages says that we can look at lease rates every 2 years only. and then we need to do it at the March Airport Commission meeting. Well, there was no March Airport Commission meeting, so we decided to move that to the February meeting and presented that to the Airport Commission at their meeting a few days ago. And then the other thing that some of the leases talk about is using the CPI as a barometer for what is reasonable in terms of lot lease rate increases. And so we looked at that. I think the only sort of point of debate here was whether or not when the lease says you should use CPI to deem what's reasonable, is that a lookup of the and use of the CPI as an index. In other words, going all the way back to the beginning when the lot lease rates were established and then using an index to catch up, quote unquote, or do we just simply look at the CPI as a rate, an annual rate, and use the most recent 2-year period rate and apply that to whatever the existing lease rates are? I think like safe to say there was a difference of opinion between staff and the commission. The commission ultimately voted to recommend to the council here that we look at the CPI as a rate and apply the previous 2 years CPI rate to the existing rates, land lease rates. And so that would be the recommendation from the Airport Commission. Staff is supportive of either, really. I think the tough part is that when you look at it as a rate, and if there's years in which the council, for whatever reason, decides not to increase those rates, you don't ever have an opportunity to quote unquote catch up. And also staff would read the leases to say that CPI is one way in which we can determine what's reasonable. Another way to look at what's reasonable is looking at the costs of doing business. And, you know, again, that catch up would maybe help with that. However, you know, the nominal, the difference here over across 31 hangar owners or lot owners is really not that large of a dollar amount. And I think with the progress we're making out there, the airport's heading in a good direction. I think it's perfectly appropriate to take either one of these suggestions and move forward with it. I think the total dollar amount difference between the two is maybe around $2,000. So that's just kind of in terms of scale of what we're talking about here. So again, staff would be comfortable with either. Again, the Airport Commission did recommend the use of the CPI as a rate, and I believe we have the Airport Commission recommendation there for an increase to the non-commercial lease rate of 12.3 cents per square foot, and a commercial rate of 18.4 cents per square foot of land area that they're the lease premises. So with that, I would take questions.
A couple questions. I remember going round and round on this a couple of years ago. Refresh my memory if you can. Have there been 2-year cycles where lease rates have not increased?
Yes.
In the Airport Commission recommendation of the 12.3 cents versus staff's recommendation of a increase this year and then in 2027, are they looking to hold that 12.3 cent per square foot static for 2 years then?
Yeah. However, in fairness, they're using a 2-year rate of the CPI. So I think it was 4.some% total, right? So it's, even though it's holding for 2 years, it's using the 2-year, which is one of the things that didn't happen last time, is we only used a 1-year CPI index and didn't. We need to set the rates for 2 years today because we can't revisit them until the even year again. And so I believe the Airport Commission's rates do account for that in the fact that they're going back 2 years.
All right, I'll listen to see what anybody else has to say.
Thoughts, questions? Just a couple things to mention. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we went through this process the last time, minutes show that the previous interim city administrator had basically suggested the same thing that staff is suggesting with this.
Yes, she did.
The other thing is that we all just approved a runway extension, tax extension, and some dollars that this fund cannot support. And so we're asking our taxpayers to pay that difference. And the point that there isn't much, $2,000, it's $2,000. And which that fund needs. Just pointing those things out for discussion, additional thoughts.
The 2,000 is that the airport commission would be less their recommendation versus our staff recommendation?
Correct.
So if we wanted to just set it as using our staff recommendation versus the airport commission, we would just change our wording.
Yeah, the motion could simply be to adopt the staff recommended rates.
I would be in favor of that.
I think the other thing that's a little sticky, and it's no one's fault, is that the fact that you have, and in this case, there was only 3 members I attended the airport commission meeting. Only one of the 3 members that were there that voted is actually a hangar owner, but either way, it's tough when you have people have vested interest recommending things like this to the council. Of course, they're going to go with the lower dollar amount in most cases. And again, no one's fault, but just want to point that out as well. When we seated that commission, it was really the intent was to get it so there was less hangar owner, property owners out there. And we have gotten to that point. I think the majority of the members do not have any interest or property out there. And so that was my desire. And I think that's helped with some of the decisions coming from that commission, but just wanted to point that out.
I'll make a motion to set the July 2026 and July 2027 land lease rates as recommended by staff.
I would second that.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next item on airport, hangar lease defaults.
Mr. Mayor and Council, for a number of years, we've had some vacant lots at the airport, as you can see in the little graphic that's in the report there. We're down to 3. Most of our lots are built out on, or at least our non-commercial lots. And those folks' lease they've been paying the ground lease, so it's not that they haven't been paying, but the lease does say that they have 2 years from the signing of the lease to complete the building and sort of move in. We're well past that. I think the leases here were done in 2015 and 2017 respectively. And so obviously we're half a decade past that. Our attorney drafted a letter here based on the lease language and how to properly find those leases to be in default. And so the commission did recommend that we notify these lot lease holders that they are in default and send them the letter that was proposed by the city attorney. And then what that letter does is the lease allows them 30 days to correct any default. Of course, you can't build a hangar in 30 days, and especially not starting in February. So what the attorney came up with was that they would be required to contact the airport manager, which would be me, within 30 days and enter into an agreement to build a hangar within a certain period of time. So we didn't want to just leave it empty in terms of the 30-day notification to me and then have an empty promise. We want to have an agreement that is signed within that 30-day period that moves them forward and further obligates them to build that hangar. So that is the Airport Commission's recommendation and staff's recommendation to notify the leaseholders who have not constructed a hangar that they're in default of their lease and have them negotiate and execute a construction agreement within the parameters as described in the report here. And those parameters were that they would pull a building permit within a year of the notice of default. And then move in within another year, essentially a 2-year period, which is the original period. So we're essentially sort of hitting the reset button and saying, okay, from here on out, we expect that this 2-year period would be honored. So.
Curious, has there been either by staff or the airport commission any conversation with these lease holders?
Yeah, we've reached out to all three, and all three have responded in some way, shape, or form to say that they intend to build real soon. And so I would expect to be contacted by all three, and I would expect them to, want to enter into an agreement to build. I do know that one is sort of waiting on whether or not the commercial lots can be sold. He's got a partner there that there's a little bit of few moving parts there for him, but otherwise I think, yeah, I'm sure they're motivated to do it because they've got a lot invested in paying this lot lease for the last 6-8 years, whatever it's been. So.
Thank you.
What would be the next steps after that if we give them their notice, we have conversations, and again, nothing happens and it's just sitting again?
Amanda, do you want to speak to what if they don't construct it after they sign an agreement that says they will? I suppose there'll be something in that agreement that says what happens.
Yeah, Your Honor, Counsel. So if they ignore this 30-day notice and they just don't do anything, then they would be in default because they have 30 days to cure. And we would move forward with the various default options that we have under the lease. So one of that, the most common one would be terminating the lease. And then going about the process of taking the lot back and then releasing it. There is language in the lease that says that we can, cover all of our costs related to that. Presumably the people who would have been leasing from us for the last couple of years would be out those lease payments, but the lease does very clearly say they're out those lease payments. They lose the right to those. So we could do that. They obviously don't have anything on the property that would be personal property that we'd be seizing. So really it's terminating the lease and taking the property back.
Yeah, because we still have quite a list of people waiting.
Around 25 people.
And is there an ability for these individuals, if they have someone in mind or don't know of someone that is interested in getting in, to sell that right directly to another individual?
Yes, Your Honor, Counsel, if the leases do give them the ability to sublease, and so presumably that's how they would structure it, as they would be subleasing out or assigning the remaining lease to a third party. We have the right to approve those, but essentially it's a rubber stamp unless there is some sort of violating factor, which there probably would not be a situation like that.
But they could do that and also say, I want $10,000 for this right to give you the sublease on this.
To a third party? Yeah, they could make whatever kind of side agreement they wanted to with a third party.
These lease agreements, what is the time frame? Are they 20-year leases?
25-year leases.
25. So some of them are how many years into that 25-year?
Actually 11, 2015. So.
Motion? Any other
I would
questions?
like to make the motion to authorize staff to notify the lot leaseholders who have not constructed a hangar that they are in default of their lease as further described in the attached sample letter, and to negotiate and execute a construction agreement with parameters as described herein.
I'll second.
Right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, airport grant agreements.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this last item here is simply a formality in terms of, you just recall, I think 2 meetings ago, you accepted the grants. This is an approval of the grant agreement itself. And so anytime there's an agreement, anytime we need to affix the mayor's signature to something and agree to terms, we need to have the council approve that document itself. MnDOT's process is sort of a 2-step process. They want you to say you're serious, and then they'll give you the paperwork to fill out, and then you actually have to approve that grant agreement. So we are here to ask you to approve our execution of that grant agreement.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve and adopt state airport fund grant agreements with the Minnesota Department of Transportation via resolution 0209-2601, contract number 106-2407, and resolution 0209-2602, contract number 106-2409.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Smoky Oaks fee waiver request. This is around cannabis. I've made it public a number of times that I likely will be in that type of business. However, I've been excused myself from all decisions and actually left the room and handed the meeting over to Acting Mayor Valento. I inquired with Attorney Johnson, and with this being something different, that wasn't required or isn't suggested or needed. So I will carry on this next item, but will likely abstain from the vote. So with that, Abby.
Thank you, Mayor Roberts, members of the council. Scott Hansen of Smoky Oaks submitted an application for an IUP for a retail cannabis business to be located at 115 Lake Street North. After the application was submitted, reviewed by the city and conditionally approved, the city had determined that the cost for the processing of the application exceeded the escrow required for the application. As a reminder to the council, you've recently reviewed your escrow costs, and with the adoption of this new budget, we've increased those escrow costs in anticipation of not kind of getting into this circumstance. Because in the past, our practice has been we would bill send an invoice to the applicant to cover those costs. So per the city practice, the city did send an invoice to Mr. Hansen, who has asked the city consider waiver or waiving those excess fees or excess hard costs the city incurred, or to enter into a payment plan. As a reminder, and for some counselors that might not be aware, the city's system, the application submittal does require what we call a bill back form. And the bill back form does indicate that they acknowledge that they are responsible for the hard costs incurred, including administrative costs, legal, engineering. And so that was submitted with the application. And because of that, staff would not recommend we waive those costs. Staff has indicated that we don't normally enter into payment plans, but if the council was favorable, we do think that there could be a 6-month payment period where we break that up and we ask for those payments over that 6-month time period. That would allow us then to still meet the assessment time period to be able to assess it on the 2027 taxes if the fees were not paid in time. You have 2 options tonight, really. You can move to deny the waiver and payment plan, or you can move to direct staff to draft a payment plan agreement with the applicant, and I'd bring that back for your formal consideration at your next meeting.
Quick question. Could you talk through that 6-month payment plan idea again?
Yeah, so the outstanding balance is $747. We would equally divide that up and accept those payments from the applicant, maybe the first of every month. I think Finance Director Larkin could talk about if there were any additional specifics we would normally ask for in a payment plan. It is not customary. We don't have necessarily a policy over this sort of thing. So I would defer to Ellie if she had any other parameters she'd like to see or recommend.
I guess it's a follow-up question, because I think you referenced that it could then be tied to property taxes.
Yeah, failure to pay any of our city fees do necessitate us placing them on the property taxes. We have reached out to the landowner. The landowner has acknowledged that this deficit does exist and that it is the applicant's responsibility. Landowner is aware that if the applicant does not pay now or through a payment plan, that this would be assessed to their property taxes, but that does become then a private property owner matter between the applicant and that landowner.
We can tie back an outstanding invoice to the property that's in question, just not the actual person who owes the money.
The landowner does also sign on those bill back.
Oh, he does.
agreements.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have thoughts. I would say this would be silly for us to do if a business that wants to come and open up and operate in Forest Lake can't afford $747, I don't think we should give him the option to make payments or try to go back after he doesn't do that and assess the property. Come up with the $747 or maybe don't open your business here. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, I would just be nervous about setting the precedent for the payment plan, since the city hasn't regularly done that in the past. And what would that look like for future property owners? If we approve that, but then future property owners ask us to do payment plans, and then would that just become the norm? What would that look like? Then it just opens up a whole can of worms.
I would be in agreement with both council members on that.
I agree.
It sounds like then that would be a motion to deny the fee waiver and payment plan request.
That's correct. I will make a motion to move to deny the fee waiver and payment plan request.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Next item, discussion. We're into our discussion part of the meeting and Vets Memorial financing. Dave.
Yeah, being that we have a lot of moving parts for this Veterans Memorial, just wanted to kind of step through this project and identify the funding and long-term revenues coming back for it. Ellie and Cal did a great job of putting a lot of numbers and a lot of words together. But really that last page, that spreadsheet kind of explains a lot of what these words and numbers are saying. Really, at total expenditures right now, we're at $509,000. We're at with the project. Currently, the only revenue we have taken in is $145,658. We haven't received our grant dollars back and all that. As we were applying for that right now to get it back. We have a future of $170,000 approximately to finish the structure, and another $210,000 to do total of $889,000. Current revenue is $145,658. I mean, see all the funding streams. The city's $100,000, the 250 deed grant, the other legacy grant, pledge donations from these groups come up to a total of, and the historical grant for 210 comes to $843,000. At the end of the day, it leaves us at a deficit of $45,912. And we made council aware that last summer that we were going to be carrying that load for a bit until these paver sales. Ron had mentioned that before. Right now, there's 841 pavers left available. And estimating that $125 per brick to get engraved, that would be an expense of $105,000 sold. But when we sell those large pavers, 390 of them at $380 a piece, 451 of them at $230 a piece, our profit will be balance of $100,000 to the good. That $100,000 will be our maintenance. Sculptor mentioned if someone comes spray paints it, we may need to come out there and re-lacquer it, or we may need to, obviously there's going to be a long-term maintenance plan. Pavers and a shifting block in here and there. So I think this plan was well thought out. We're going to have to carry that load for a while as these pavers are being sold, but actually I think at the end of the day, once it's completely have a fund balance to help keep maintaining that. You have any questions on that? Like I said, a lot of numbers, but when you pencil it out, it does, like I said, at $5,000 for a while until these pavers come in, and that'll just keep that way. Every paver that gets sold will just keep until we end up with 100,000.
Questions?
I think I heard Ron say he was gonna go get another 20,000 tonight anyway.
Yep.
So if, let's say there is some major vandalism of some sort, I mean, does insurance, is our city policy cover anything like that?
Yep, we can't insure it right now because it's getting built, but as soon as it gets built, we'll have, we come out here or farmers come out here and, that's when we have the price on it, so that'll be under the city's. Something major, yes, it will be.
No, just, this is a discussion item, so thank you for bringing this and Kyle getting these numbers for us here tonight.
Mostly Ellie with the numbers.
Oh, yes, I should have known better. Thank you, Ellie. All right, so. Oh, go ahead, Finn. Sure, yeah, well, if you, go ahead.
Mark Finneman, I'm part of the Memorial Committee and have been with this project for quite some time. I think I can speak for the committee for sure, and a lot of the nonprofits that are here in town, that to add multiple voices to the thank you to the city, that we do appreciate and understand what the city has accomplished for us and with us. We're proud of what we have done in terms of being a small committee and generating the funds that we have generated with a good idea. And so we understand the deficit, and we're a big player in what's going to happen now to remove that deficit. So alongside of Ron going off to the Legion, the VFW and others, or we'll go off to the Lions and a variety of other organizations, and they have yearly donations that they can make. And we've talked to them about this becoming one of the donations they can make. Now, if Ron can go off and get 10,000 twice a year from the Legion, wonderful. That's a bigger chunk than I thought we could do. But if we can do that, I think we can whittle away at this. We can go into a campaign as well. What I'm trying to say is that we're acknowledging our role in this, and it's not done, and we'll stick with it. We'll be well beyond into the maintenance area as well in the times to come. But I do think we can generate a lot of funds here. We have an opportunity to bronze the model that you saw and to put that into some sort of funding campaign that could be quite spectacular. So if somebody could actually donate money to this cause and receive something in return, such as that bronze, that would be quite a story. And so I believe we'll satisfy this deficit faster than just waiting it out at $5,000, $6,000 a year. So I hope you can take that faith and assurance to some degree and believe that we're still here. We're not going away. There's no group more intimate with the story than we are. And so take that to heart, if you would.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I agree. It's been a great partnership, and both the city staff and your group has done a great job, and really looking forward to get this thing finished and a celebration at some point. Okay, staff updates. We'll start with Ellie.
The audit officially starts next week. Our auditors will start prelims. So if they might be reaching out to each one of you council members to ask just standard questions. If you get anything or you have additional questions from what they ask, please feel free to reach out to me. And then, believe it or not, we start budget prep at the next council workshop.
Thank you. Brian.
Mayor, City Council, I do have a few updates for you guys tonight. Just giving you a heads up, next Tuesday at our City Council workshop, February 17th, Washington County will be joining us to discuss the County State Aid Highway 32 project. Obviously some favorable news you guys received from Administrator Stotts that project was awarded $5 million. So that'll definitely help that conversation. Some other stuff that's going on with County Road 50. Washington County will be sending out an RFP at the end of the month for County Road 50 between Trunk Highway 61 and out to Manning Avenue or County State Highway 15 for a study that will be completed sometime in 2022. Just kind of we'll be looking at that, what that corridor will be planned for. So heads up on that, because that will be some public engagement with that project. I'm not sick. It's a good basketball tournament we had this weekend, and definitely lost my voice. Yeah, we did beat Edina. MnDOT also is exploring an RFP to be sending out here shortly. Timeframes not identified exactly, but the 61 corridor. So that'll obviously be on the radar prior to that going out. A couple of things. The Met Council Municipal Inflow and Infiltration I&I grant program, we submitted in that in 23. So we'll be submitting those cost reimbursement in March. We're anticipating somewhere around 155,000, just a grant that we line up with our sanitary sewer improvement projects and just accordingly to try to maximize what we can get. Just applying, we get $50,000, but we're anticipating somewhere around 155,000 this year. But we also applied for the 2025 grants and have shuffled some projects around between 26 and 27. With that, we're able to identify $715,000 of eligible costs. With our 715,000 eligible costs, we'll get 50,000 minimum, but our maximum grant award could potentially be $357,000 of work that we were going to do anyways, but just kind of aligning it with these grants that have come out. This is the third one that we've applied now for this one, so. It's a good program that's lines well when you have a well planned out capital improvement plan too. Last one, the water efficiency grants. We have 2 quarters left, this quarter and quarter 2, and then that grant will come to an end. This is the 3rd or 4th time we've been doing this one, but that goes to rebates on toilets, washing machines, dishwashers, and irrigation components. So definitely want to push that out as much as we can publicly to make sure that the residents are aware of that, because we have 2 quarters to submit rebate applications for that. That's all I got.
Questions for Ryan? Jolene?
Ryan alluded to, we will not be having a workshop on Monday evening. We are closed on Monday in observance of President's Day, so our workshop will be held on Tuesday evening. Other than that, I don't have any other updates tonight.
Amanda, I'm gonna ask you, since you're here on a regular basis, if you have anything for us.
No updates.
Abby?
Thank you, Mayor Roberts, members of the council. A few items I just want to highlight that you saw come through last week in their weekly updates. One of them is the county has released some more promotional items on some low-cost home repair loans that are available to our citizens and our landowners. One of them is a newer program, the Repair and Renovate program. That one's actually targeted households that make slightly more than some of the other income thresholds that we've seen in the past. So we're trying to work with the county on how we can kind of get some of that information out to exploring different options. But those are home repair loans, septic, non-compliant septic replacement. There's lots of different types of assistance out there to help rehab some of our older homes in the city. I wanted to let you know also that Hidden Creek South's neighborhood meeting is this Wednesday, 5 o'clock here at City Hall. That'll be kind of going south of the existing Hidden Creek neighborhood and then hopping over the parkway to the east. Additionally, the Planning Commission meets this Wednesday and we'll be talking quite a bit about code updates with the Boost initiative. We're going to have an item on that at your workshop next Tuesday. I had to write my little note here. Next Tuesday, just to talk through what staff has been working on with the Planning Commission, make sure it's aligning with council policy and directives and things you want to see improved with their code. And then lastly, just for the record for folks that might be watching at home, the property on Jensen Avenue has been listed for sale. But we are actively, anytime we get inquiries, we are actively advising that there is no certificate of occupancy and that they need to work with city staff on rehabbing that structure. So we are getting inquiries on that as pretty consistently. So it's a very fair market value for the house, but does need a lot of work.
On somewhat related, the Everton property was taken down. How about the other one that we've been working on?
That one should be, I know I keep kind of saying should be scheduled any day. We're waiting on a disconnect from Xcel Energy. And then they hadn't got the notice from Xcel Energy, so they started working on a couple other projects they had. I do anticipate it should be within this next few weeks that we'll see that one on 17th. I think it has come down as well.
Great. Dave?
No updates tonight.
Amanda?
No update.
Mark?
Internal posting, we do have an applicant for our police chief position from our internal ranks, and he will be interviewed at the end of this week by 2 different panels consisting of our personnel committee and some staff members, and another panel consisting of local community members and at least one other chief law enforcement officer from the area. So We look forward to those interviews, and then we'll be reporting back to the council on a recommendation for the police chief. So.
Councilmember Miller,
No updates.
Councilmember Valento,
No updates from me.
Councilmember Erickson,
No updates tonight.
Member Larson.
For me either, thank you.
No real updates, just a thank you to Congressman Staubers to him and his staff for allowing us to secure that funding for County Road 32. That is huge for the city of Forest Lake, and appreciate staff's work on that, and the county as well. They were the lead on this. I met with the congressman a couple times in this. We've met with his head of staff, and so real pleased to be able to get that, and looking forward to getting that street done. As most of the complaints I'm hearing about all the potholes and things, which is just because of the weather, is on 11th Avenue or County Road 32. So the timing was good on that. All right, with that, we are going into closed session. So if someone wants to make a motion to do that.
I move to close the meeting pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 3A for the city administrator performance review. The closed session will be held in the Forest Lake Conference Room and will commence immediately. Once the closed session is completed, the city council will reconvene the open portion of the regular meeting. And as there are no other items on the agenda, once back in session, the council will adjourn.
Motion, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, and we're in closed session. Thanks, everyone.
Here we go. Here we go.